Receiving incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
I'm sure you have many questions.
Transmission.
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 Welcome to Transmission, a monthly show about the most impactful posts from our Meteor.js forums. My name is Paul Dowman, founder at OKGrow, and each month I am joined by Sashko, Stubailo, and other guests from the Meteor development group. Please note the contents of this show are the sole opinions of their authors. This show is sponsored by Meteor Galaxy Hosting, a containerized cloud service specifically designed and engineered for Meteor app deployment. Learn more at meteor.com/galaxy. This show is also sponsored by OKGrow, an official Meteor Prime consulting partner building full-stack web and mobile apps. Learn more at okgrow.com. Welcome to Transmission number 17. I'm here with Sashko Stubailo of Meteor Development Group. I'm Paul Dowman from OKGrow, and we're going to talk about what's been happening on the Meteor forums and in the Meteor community since the last time.
Yep.
How's it going, Sashko?
Going great, man. This has been an awesome week. In particular, this is the week when everyone at our company who's remote flies into San Francisco. We all get to hang out together. That's one of my favorite things about working at Meteor is that it's really remote friendly and flexible. But it's also good to get to hang out together.
That's cool. You guys have people all over. You got Europe, you've got Israel, you've got North America. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're the same at OKGrow. We've got people mostly North America, but one in Brazil.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a good challenge. It's fun. All right, so let's talk about what people have been talking about in the forums. The first thread I want to talk about is the topic was, is this forum completely useless? Just kidding. Okay. We'll skip that one.
Okay.
There's a lot of good ones. Okay, and actually, the first thing I'd like to talk about is something that wasn't on the forums, but I did an interview with Ben Newman on a new podcast that we're doing called The Hashbang Show. You can find it on the OKGrow YouTube account. And Ben mentioned that the Meteor team has a new member. So, and I'm not sure if that's been officially announced because I didn't see that on the forums, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a question of whether or not we should be announcing all various employment activities, but this is a really big deal because we hired Jesse Rosenberger, who is known on the forums and on GitHub as Abernix, and he was one of the people that really stepped up when we started reaching out a lot more to get people to help contribute and triage issues and look at stuff. And over time, it was clear that he was such a critical part of Meteor maintenance and moving the Meteor project forward that we just had to hire him. And in his community capacity, he's been focusing the most on working on GitHub issues, accepting pull requests, triaging issues, replying to them, getting good reproductions. And I'm excited to see him go more in depth and work on more kind of long-term projects on top of just looking at a lot of issues.
Cool, that's awesome. Well, hope this is okay to spring this on the show like that. But I think people are really excited about it. There was a bunch of comments on after that show about it. People are really glad that there's going to be more stuff happening on Meteor. It's like as opposed to Apollo. It looks like that's like it's good to feel that that's still an important project because it is for all of us.
That's right. And, in true Meteor fashion, we've been dragging our feet we've been working on some blog posts talking about some of the things we did last year and some of the things we're working on improving this year as well. We've managed to set up a culture for Apollo where we blog about stuff really frequently and communicate all the time. And we're working to bring that to Meteor as well so that we can have fewer, things that seem like announcements and a lot more just like incremental updates. One of the things, like I mentioned in the previous show, is making sure that the roadmap is constantly up to date. But hopefully now that Jesse's on the team, we can do more fine-grained technical updates as well. So, writing little blog posts about new features that we're working on, or ideas that we have, and like community projects like Redis Oplog and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think anyone that's been around in the Meteor community for a few years is really probably noticing a big difference. And I think it's really from Apollo. Like, you guys, everything was different about the way the Apollo project was run, and it's clear that has kind of like that it worked, and that you guys are now like bringing that into the way you do everything on Meteor.
Yeah, and it's the way we've always wanted to do stuff on Meteor for a long time. It's just there's so many moving parts that it's so much easier to start from scratch and do a better job there than to turn the whole ship at once, right? Just Meteor is like a far more complex code base. There were 1,000 issues open at some point. Now there's only less than 700, so lots of dents being made.
Awesome.
But we're working on it.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. So how does this change priorities, or does it? I mean, is he just helping out Ben with all the same things that are already on the roadmap, or anything new?
I think the biggest thing that's there's two things. One is getting all the stuff done faster. He's working on, I don't know how much I want to talk about what he's working on right now. Well, it'll be, by the time the show goes up, it'll be a thing. So one of the things we're working on is removing underscore, which is something that we might not have been able to do otherwise, but is important to make, in the theme of making Meteor more modern and aligned with JavaScript. Like, having the entire code base rely on like a 4-year-old version of underscore is not ideal.
So you don't mean just replacing it with Lodash or something? You mean like getting rid of the dependency altogether?
Well, that would be ideal. But it's going to be up to Jesse to figure out the best way to go about that. Mm-hmm. At least we should make sure it's some sort of modern thing that people might actually want to use. And then the other thing is, I think, just better communication, right? It'll take a little bit of the pressure off on the implementation side, so that we can focus on telling people about Meteor, about the new things that are going on, and even to the wider community. Because while things have been improving a lot internally, and I think people in the community can see that, there hasn't been as much messaging to people who maybe even tried Meteor in the past and don't use it anymore, or haven't heard of it, or haven't tried it. So that's something we need to move into. That's going to be one of my biggest goals this year, is essentially evangelism. Like, we want to get the thing started up again.
Awesome. Cool. Well, speaking of things that Ben and the Meteor team are working on, somebody asked about code splitting in the forums thread. So, and Ben mentioned recently that he's been working on that. So, do you have an update, or do you know anything more about the
Yeah. So Ben's been working on this for a while. I guess there's been a lot of experimenting to do. So there hasn't always been an opportunity to get a lot of design feedback, but there was a lot of input from that great community thread about code splitting, which is where the new updates are coming from. I just want to mention the person who started working on that was Klausner, I guess. So that thread really reminded us that this is something that a lot of people care about, and so we've worked with the person who started this thread and have a lot of great ideas about how to bring code splitting. And the thing I'm most excited about with Ben's work is he has a really clear vision for how using Meteor should feel, and it shouldn't feel like configuration, right? I think that's going to be the biggest standout thing about code splitting in Meteor that we're working on. Is the only thing you have to do is write your code, and then the code splitting happens automatically for you, much like the other features in Meteor that we're used to.
Which is what I love about Meteor. So anyone coming from the rest of JavaScript, or when it's even more stark when you go the other way. It's like, well, I have to do all of what?
Yeah, and I think a big part of code splitting for us is I would say a big compromise you have to make if you're starting out with Webpack, for example, and you're trying to switch to Meteor because you feel like it'll give you a lot of the same JavaScript features with less configuration, for example, is right now you have to pay a pretty significant tax in terms of bundle size sometimes. So probably, one of the bigger problems for people right now is, there isn't code splitting. Meteor Core includes a lot of various modules that you might not all be using. And so code splitting can be a great way of reducing reducing the tax that you have to pay to get the nice features of Meteor when you're coming from other tools.
Right. So this takes the form of a dynamic import, like an import function that you can call at any place. And it looks like it's already at stage 3 in the TC39 process. So stage
That's
4
right.
being the final stage. So I guess stage 3, it's pretty likely that it'll be an actual standard. And I guess Ben's working on implementing it according to that standard, I would assume.
That's right. Yeah. So I think one of the things we're pretty passionate about is focusing on features of JavaScript that are pretty reliable, right? So one thing we don't want to get people into is writing JavaScript features that are stage 0 or stage 1 and are likely to dramatically change syntax. So especially now that import is at stage 3, that makes us really comfortable betting on that standard as the core implementation for everything we're doing with code splitting.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Ben is obviously the right guy to be working on that, being on the TC39, and he's done work with that he's done related work in the past. That's cool. Yeah, we go into that a fair bit in our interview with him on the Hashbang show. That's cool. So maybe we can look forward to better load times with Meteor apps in the future for big Meteor apps when you can split them into multiple bundles that get loaded at different times. Someone also asked about service workers in the announcement thread, which is a really
So I think just my experience from talking to Ben is that our goal with the Meteor project is to have more or less one best way to do a certain thing. So, if people are looking at service workers as a way to do, for example, asynchronous module loading or JavaScript caching, if we can make it so that you don't have to mess around with that to get a really fast loading time, then that would be the optimal outcome. One of the biggest things we're doing now is frequently testing with our own internal production apps like Galaxy and Optics, and seeing what kinds of performance benefits we can squeeze out of those. So I think the biggest thing is going to be basically data, like how fast can we get these things to load, and are service workers part of that process or not?
That's cool. A couple of years ago, there was a criticism that I heard once in a while that the Meteor project wasn't based on it was like you guys are building a framework, but not having extracted out of real projects. But that's not true anymore at all. Like it's you're working on real big things, Galaxy and Optics. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think the two biggest benefits to the whole project have been, one, getting customers on Galaxy who are relying on us to keep their app running. And the second thing is, having our own internal production apps that are very, very important to the success of the company.
Yep. And you guys are talking to those customers a lot with the support and things, so you get to know what everyone's pain is.
Exactly. And it's sometimes hard to balance stuff we hear on GitHub with stuff we hear on the forums with stuff we hear from our customers. Mm-hmm. But we're always taking into account all of those different avenues to prioritize what we're doing.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely seen the large apps where you would want to be able to split the bundle into different different ones, different parts. So that's cool. All right.
Yeah, and one thing that's pretty interesting is I don't know if this is saying too many opinions, but I think one of our opinions here is that JavaScript has been going through a period of particularly rapid advancement. So if you look at ES 2015, that included like 10 billion new features. But if you look at ES 2016, there's only like 1 or 2 features in there.
Yeah.
So while it has felt a lot like Meteor has been playing catch up to modern JavaScript because it's been changing so fast, we don't expect that to continue forever. Eventually, JavaScript will have more of the features that people need, and then we just need to focus on creating the best experience around that stable specification.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy time since 2015, but I think it was like there was years of changes that were sort of being held up by the TC39 process maybe, and just they opened the floodgates in one big release, and then now they're just dripping them out more regularly, so that's good.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, the next thing that people have been talking about a lot is Kadira shutting down, and that's been sort of known for a while, but it was officially announced that Kadira, the performance monitoring app, will be shutting down February 28th. And so I wanted to know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is that we're, like I said before, a lot of the feedback we get is from people who are using Meteor in production, and for a lot of people, Kadira and performance monitoring is a really core part of their workflow. So we're like actively looking into different ways of giving people that experience in the future when Kadira is no longer up. And I've heard some things about Airnoda possibly releasing some sort of image that people can run to continue to use Kadira once it's shut down. And there are also, various alternatives you can use for stuff like error reporting. So yeah, I think this is just going to be a matter of working with those production users who need this functionality and seeing what the best option is for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any Meteor app that doesn't use it. I think it's pretty standard. And I think you can get some of the features, like, you can, there's other ways you can get error reporting. There's other things like Sentry and Rollbar and Track.js and all those things. Sometimes a little bit of work to integrate them, but you can definitely get that. You can get, Galaxy has like some of the basic stuff, like you can see memory and number of connections and like the really core important stuff at least. So that's good.
And at the company here, we have a bit more experience with this kind of app insight now that we've built that Galaxy page, collected that data, and our new product, Apollo Optics, is entirely based around that kind of, or similar kinds of application-specific performance insights. Yeah. So I think, now we have a good background to solve this problem for people. So,
yeah, I'd be a bit afraid of trying to run, even if you release like a Docker image or, a bunch of them. I have the feeling it's a pretty complicated product, and it might not be that easy to keep running yourself. But who knows? Maybe it's an opportunity for someone to do it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it comes out, and we'll definitely. It'll be interesting to see what Airnoda works on next, if anything. So.
Cool. Someone also asked about Mantra. So, it was for anyone that doesn't know it, it was a design pattern for a way of building Meteor apps that was similar to what's recommended in the guide, but not quite the same. So, you worked a lot on the guide. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting that I think Airnoda and also our team here roughly at the same time saw the need for a more complete set of recommendations, or at least defaults for various parts of an app that you need to build. I think one aspect of this is coming from the fact that the project that I worked on with Tom, which was the Meteor guide, was pretty much, you could say competitive with Mantra. I think that it was a really good project. That was what some people needed. I think that there are alternatives now to application structure, especially now that Meteor apps are more similar to regular JavaScript applications, and you can structure your code with modules. I think hopefully people can find something to move to that more standard. I think on a technical level, and I mentioned this probably in like the transmission podcast like 10 million years ago, I felt that Mantra encouraged people to write more code on top of their code, to do stuff like dependency injection. And my personal opinion is that those problems are better solved in more transparent ways. For example, if you're trying to do mocking, I think the best way is to do mocking on the module level. Like, for example, if you've used Jest, one of its main features has been that instead of having to manually set up mocking, you can use the module system built directly into JavaScript to do mocking. So I think those are the right approaches where you don't have to jump through hoops in your code to get some of the basic features that you expect.
So for anyone that's mourning the loss of this, well, I guess you can take a look at what the guide's recommending lately, because that'll keep evolving. And yeah, I think your point about Meteor just being a little bit more open and more standard and allowing you to build apps in like more different ways. It's like you can do it however you want now. Okay. Next topic was a big topic was people. Somebody has created a way to deploy to Zeit now. So this sounds like an alternative to the free Meteor hosting that used to exist a while back.
Mm-hmm.
I have some questions about it though. Like, does it support fibers?
Well, everything does. So as long as you can, well, I don't know specifically about now, but as long as you can run Node, you can pretty much run fibers. You can install it. It's installed just like a regular NPM packages. So one of the things we've been really, one could say, strict about maintaining is like the ability to host Meteor apps on any hosting platform. Obviously we strongly recommend Galaxy because it's built specifically to make running Meteor apps easy and work well. And that's the only way we make money in that department. So that's why we recommend it. But, it would be silly if Meteor as an open source project was something that was hard to run somewhere else. There was MUP and MUPX before. I think various hosting platforms have starter kits for Meteor, like you can click a Meteor button and get some sort of container that will work. So I'm glad that there's another option, and it's even better that it's free, that people who don't need all the features in Galaxy and just want to get a simple free database going and get one container running, can do that with one command with this project. That's awesome.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't realize that because Fibers having a C extension, I thought there was. Oh, but okay, NPM packages can install. See, I understand.
Yeah, it's the same as database drivers or something like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So if you're looking for a simple, free alternative, then that might be something.
Oh, and one thing that I got from this was that we need a better explanation, I think, of what exactly makes Galaxy worthwhile if you're running a serious production app. So I talked a little bit with Rohit, who is in charge of that messaging, to make sure that we put up a little bit more information for people so that they can make an informed decision between Galaxy and other hosting platforms beyond just like, oh, it's made by MDG, so like it must be good. Which is, I think, honestly, a big part of the reason most people use it. But there are also great technical reasons to use it, but we just haven't really done a good job explaining those. Yeah,
well, I mean, that guaranteed compatibility is definitely worthwhile. But, there's a lot of things with Galaxy. Like you can, first of all, get some of those performance and metrics, like the type of thing I mentioned. It's got a little bit of insight into things inside your app, like how many connections you have, that type of stuff that you wouldn't get by default with other hosting platforms.
Yeah. And the most important thing is what happens when you deploy a new version of your app is that it integrates with the Meteor hot code push function to make sure that you don't shut down all the containers at once. And when people reconnect to your app, they get a great upgrading experience. Because one thing that's really easy to get wrong in your own deployment is make it so that when you deploy a new version, you shut down your whole app and you start the whole thing back up again and you get a ton of reconnections at once. So there's some details about how that process works that we put a lot of thought into. And so that's just something we need to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, maybe you'll write something up and we'll talk about it on the next one.
Yeah, I'll try to. I have a meeting about it, so
Okay.
clearly it's going to happen.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. And then the last topic for today is people have been asking for a quick Apollo update. Anything
Yeah.
new, and specifically subscriptions?
Yeah. So right now, what we're working on is setting some clear goals for Apollo for the next 6 months to a year. It's been a really awesome 2016, right? So Apollo started as a project to build a new data layer for Meteor. It's become much more than that. It's something people are using across all kinds of different frameworks and platforms. It works with native Swift code. It works with React Native, etc. So that's been really cool, and it's now, one of the things that we're really proud of, that I guess we can kind of brag about, is that it's now on every single platform, the most downloaded GraphQL client.
Congrats.
So if you're using GraphQL with basically anything, you're most likely to be using Apollo compared to any other option, which is pretty sweet. So now what we want to do is take that to the next level. I think basically, rather than clawing our way out of the underdog situation that we started in the GraphQL community, it's building the things that we can only build when we have that level of integration. I think subscriptions is one of those. Because we have all of these various clients and some server libraries, we think we can be instrumental to making GraphQL subscriptions a reality for people. So people have talked about it a lot. There have been various presentations. We've produced various prototypes. But the next thing is to work with everyone in the GraphQL community to make it a reality. So when you are using GraphQL and you're like, I want to have subscriptions right now, you know exactly what to do. You don't have to set up some super hacked thing. So one of the things that was brought up in the forum thread was, people thinking about subscriptions in Absinthe, which is, a specific GraphQL server, and whether or not Facebook is going to release a subscription specification. And the answer to those questions is basically our goal is to work with all of those people to make sure that everyone together ends up with one solution. Because it's not such a huge thing. It's just, a page or two of extra text in the specification and, a couple hundred lines of code that need to be integrated into various servers. But the real value is not in the technical side. It's in the consistency. So, it's cool if people have real-time functionality in various GraphQL servers, but it's the most cool if you can just fire up your favorite tool and have subscriptions working out of the box. So that's our goal for this year with that. And, it's something that can only move as fast as we can get everyone else on board with it. So, I can't promise any kind of timeline or anything because it's not up to us to build it. It's up to everyone to do it together.
Cool. Well, I think having you guys as part of that process is probably going to make it be a better standard than it might otherwise have been. You guys have the developer ease of use in mind, plus a lot of experience with live data, of course, from Meteor. So that's great.
Yeah, and I'm really excited still. One of the original goals of Apollo was to bring Meteor-style real-time functionality to GraphQL so that you can get the Meteor-like developer experience on top of pretty much any backend. And that's still a big long-term goal for us. And not only for us, but I would say the whole GraphQL community. Like when we talk to Facebook or we talk to some other people who are using it in production, they also have this dream of one day being able to flip a switch and have their entire UI update automatically. But yeah, like our goal is to get there the long way. So that when we are there, everyone feels great about it, and the whole community is in it together.
Cool. So for anyone using or wanting to use Apollo with Meteor, in the past a while back now, we were talking about it. It was originally planned to be part of 1.5 and then as some sort of like official integration, and I think it just sort of became obvious that it wasn't really needed to be an official integration, because since then Meteor has been becoming more and more just something that you can add any npm package to and it just works. So we're using it at OKGrow like that. There's a blog article that came out a few weeks ago on the Meteor blog written by Robert Dickert from OKGrow, and it goes into how to do that a bit. So yeah, anyone that's using Meteor and wanting to access other data sources, other types of databases, you probably want to take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just one thing just to add to that is, in addition to, it being really feasible to use those things together, like both of our production apps are also doing that. We also just found that many of our core customers and developers using Meteor, integrating Apollo was not a big priority for them. There were other things that were a much higher priority. And so, staying true to our goal of, serving people in the community, we decided that wasn't the right thing to build at the time. So it's great that it works. And also we're focused on doing things that the Meteor community needs the most of the time.
Yeah,
like right
I
now,
appreciate it. That's what I want as well. I think just the incremental improvements that you guys have been making on Meteor is good. I think that's where I'd like to see it keep going. Anybody that needs it can add things like Apollo as well.
Yep.
All right. That was all I had in the notes to talk about. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, nothing super specific, but like I said, one of my biggest things is to make sure that in 2017 people hear a lot more about Meteor than they have in recent things. I would say that a lot of the stuff we've been working on has been kind of transitionary, in the sense that upgrading to a new version of Node was unsurprisingly a huge project because of the way binary dependencies work. Making sure you can take advantage of all the modern features of the language. These are all things that we think needed to get done. And now that they're in there, and there's a couple other things like code splitting that I think will make Meteor a really compelling platform for the whole JavaScript community to build on top of. So that's what we want to work on more this year, and make people more aware of that as well.
Yeah, that's cool. It's maybe less big marketing announcement worthy, but like for people that are really using it, it's like really great stuff. Cool. Okay, well, I think everybody knows where to find you on the Meteor forums.
Yeah, still on there all the time, man.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Sashko, and looking forward to talking to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And make sure to, people who listen to this or on the forums, make sure to keep thinking about what kinds of stuff you want to hear about on the podcast, and posting on our suggestion threads for what we should talk about, because that's where we get all the ideas for what we're going to talk about. The whole goal of this is to, keep people informed about the things that they care about.
Yep. Any type of feedback would be appreciated. Format, everything. Okay. Thanks. See you next time.
Sweet.